Tonight, evacuation orders and air quality concerns as wildfires in Western Canada rage on. Thousands of people on the move, pushed out by fire.
It's gut-wrenching to think of what could possibly happen.
As crews battle fires burning out of control.
And we're going to do our best to hold this fire on the edge of town.
Israeli forces push deeper into Rafah, setting off a desperate scramble for safety among civilians.
Going into Rafah risks doing terrible harm to civilians.
As the U.S. criticizes Israel for lacking a credible plan. Plus, a reunion decades in the making.
It was like the best day of my life.
The international search for a sister just in time for Mother's Day.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Marcia McMillan.
Good evening. Thousands of people in Western Canada are out of their homes tonight, forced to flee as wildfires inch closer to their communities. Officials in Fort Nelson, BC, are tonight urging those who stayed behind to leave as a fast-growing fire burns nearby. They're warning that medical services and communications networks may no longer be available. Smoke from that wildfire now spreading into Alberta, where people there are also facing a firefight. CTV's Kamal Karamali reports.
It's okay. Just breathe.
A family's frantic race.
We are at the turnoff
into the northeast BC community of Fort Nelson to grab their belongings while a roaring wildfire engulfs everything in its path.
It's gut-wrenching to think of what could possibly happen or what is happening.
Inside Fort Nelson, thick smoke blankets the quiet streets.
There's no one there. It's really eerie feeling.
An evacuation order means more than 3,000 people have fled to safety. The emergency responders who stayed behind brace for a last stand.
If we get anything like the winds we had on Friday when this started up 70 kilometers an hour, there's not much that's going to be able to stop this fire.
The nearby wildfire, now less than 3 kilometers away from Fort Nelson, growing to 25 square kilometers. That's almost twice the size of downtown Toronto. It's one of multiple out-of-control wildfires burning across Western Canada, threatening communities. In Alberta, near Grande Prairie, an evacuation order has been issued for parts of the surrounding county. And an evacuation alert near Fort McMurray has residents there ready to leave at a moment's notice.
We have a full suitcase packed. Right now, we're optimistic, but of course the wind can change anytime.
But today the wind's shifting for the better.
We're seeing cooler temperatures, some overcast skies, and less wind.
But in northern Manitoba, a massive wildfire growing to 350 square kilometers, sparking growing concern for the mining city of Flin Flon, with an evacuation order issued for a number of homes, now also putting other municipalities at risk. Meanwhile, poor air quality advisories continue in a number of regions from BC to Manitoba, with Environment Canada reporting a very high risk on the index. Marcia.
Thanks, Kamal. Residents in Bathurst, New Brunswick, have been allowed to return to their homes after a massive fire at a building supply warehouse forced dozens of properties to be evacuated. Flames engulfed the business last night with thick smoke, prompting authorities to issue a warning about the city's deteriorating air quality. The fire is now being contained, and authorities are investigating the cause. Now to the Middle East. Israeli forces are pushing deeper into the southern city of Rafah. The latest evacuation orders for people complicating ceasefire negotiations. This as the U.S. delivers its strongest public criticism yet of Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the latest.
Across the enclave, fighting has re-intensified. Israeli forces pushing back into Jabalia, battling Hamas fighters in northern areas they'd previously said they controlled. In Rafah, more evacuations today. Hundreds of thousands have fled. We're tired and lost. We don't know where to go, this man says. They've been ordered to leave by Israel as it intensifies its military pressure here.
Israel appears to be pursuing its previous strategy where it sort of goes not block by block, but neighborhood by neighborhood in an attempt to rout fighters.
This despite further pushback today from Washington against military operations in Rafah.
Going into to Rafah, even to deal with these remaining battalions, especially in the absence of a plan for civilians, risks doing terrible harm to civilians and not solving the problem, a problem that both of us want to solve.
Blinken also accused Israel of failing to neutralize Hamas as they've started to re-emerge in the north. The White House also defended President Biden's decision to stop sending powerful bombs to Israel.
He doesn't want to see American weapons used in that kind of operation. That's not to say that he is going to abandon Israel or cut them off from weapons. He was focused on a particular operation that he doesn't believe will succeed in defeating Hamas and that will cause grievous harm.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem today, at an annual Memorial Day ceremony for fallen soldiers, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to keep fighting Hamas in Gaza in memory of soldiers and civilians killed on October 7th. Keep going until victory, and that's how we'll do it, he said.
The White House says the U.S. and Israel's top national security advisors spoke today about Rafah. Israel is said to be taking the U.S.'s concerns into account. Marcia?
Thank you, Jeremy. Taking student demands into account is the basis for encampments set up at universities across this country. Students taking part in a pro-Palestinian protest at King's College Circle in Toronto met with university administrators today. Nearly 2 weeks into the demonstration, neither side has indicated when it may come to an end. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
UFT, you can't hide! On day 11 of their encampment, the U of T protesters reported that they were meeting with the university's administration.
We will not leave until we get disclosure, divestment, and academic boycott. And the administration knows this.
For days, the university has asked the protesters to dismantle the encampment in a statement explaining U of T's grounds and buildings are private property. And we have informed encampment participants that unauthorized activities such as encampments or the occupation of university buildings are considered trespassing. Though police say the school has not requested officer assistance, police will only move in if there is a security or public safety concern.
We have used all of the quote-unquote soft approaches to get U of T admin to listen to us.
The meeting behind closed doors, the protesters promising to reveal the outcome Monday after debriefing their supporters. Free, free, free Palestine!
The students are here to teach you what education really means. So sit back, listen, and take notes. The protesters maintaining they will stay as long as it takes to make their message heard. We will not stop, we will not rest. As the encampment continues. Natalie Johnson, CTV News, Toronto.
Comedian Jerry Seinfeld was met with a wave of resistance ahead of delivering a commencement speech in North Carolina. Students at Duke University walked out over his support for Israel.
Do not lose your sense of humor. You can have no idea at this point in your life how much you are going to need it to get through. Not enough of life makes sense for you to be able to survive it without humor.
Big deal about our commencement speaker?
Seinfeld received an honorary degree. Some in the crowd shouted "Free Palestine" as the comedian continued with a mostly cautious comedic script. The family of a man missing from Toronto is holding out hope as they mark the first anniversary of his disappearance. He was a well-known figure in a community west of the city where people gathered today as the search for answers continues. CTV's Hannah Schmidt reports.
And every day that went by, every week that went by, it was tougher and tougher.
In the years since Nathan Wise first went missing, his family no closer to finding out what happened.
We just want answers for Nathan so we can have the answers to put ourselves to rest, basically.
Nathan, a 38-year-old man with Down syndrome, was last seen in Toronto on May 12th, 2023. Born in Waterloo Region, Nathan grew to love the area.
Nathan is just, he's such an amazing person.
He's missed, you know, because he would just be so delightful to talk to.
While there have been no confirmed sightings of Nathan, his family is holding out hope he'll return home safely.
We don't have anything yet to this day. If you know anything, please just tell somebody.
To mark the one-year anniversary of his disappearance, family members and friends held a ceremony.
The main purpose of this is remembering him, not saying he's gone. It's remembering Nathan for who he was.
In an email to CTV News, Toronto police say there are no new updates on the investigation, but they continue to urge anyone with information to come forward.
That's really difficult to have no closure that way, but he's in our hearts.
Despite the passage of time, the pain of his absence still lingers, but hope remains strong.
What I'd tell him is, we miss you, we love you, we just want you to be safe and be with us. We're here for anything you ever need.
Hannah Schmidt, CTV News, Elmira.
A controlled explosion to demolish part of Baltimore's doomed Francis Scott Key Bridge has now been postponed until Monday because of lightning. Up to 12 million pounds of steel is still resting on top of the cargo ship that crashed into the bridge, causing it to collapse. Once the steel is removed, the ship can be refloated and traffic restored through the port. The plight of more than 100,000 people who left Ireland for Canada during the country's deadly potato famine is being commemorated in Newfoundland. A trail of bronze shoes signifying their journey across the Atlantic will soon be installed across parts of Canada, and St. John's is their first stop. CTV's Garrett Berry reports.
These shoes have made major imprints, a big journey, retracing steps across the Atlantic Ocean, just like thousands of Irish did before during the height of famine.
We don't know what it actually meant to find shoes bound in a roof, but we could imagine that it's actually a symbol of forever tied to home no matter where you wander. And they're a very evocative symbol.
This week they arrived in St. John's, where they will be placed on display outside the city's Catholic Basilica. It's the beginning of the Global Irish Famine Way, a project creating bronze shoe memorials around the world to recognize a famine and a humanitarian failure that drove thousands from their homes in the 1840s.
And it didn't happen by accident. It was largely man-made. There wasn't a shortage of food in Ireland. There was a potato blight, but it was failure to distribute food. And I think that's the other point, that it's a universal message about how you respond to a crisis.
Newfoundland is the first stop. Its links to Ireland run deep. The connections between these islands span generations.
There's no known human migration anywhere on the planet from such an intensely local part of the old world to such an intensely local part of the new world over such a long period of time.
I think it's the social interaction. The sense of humor is very Irish. And even the landscape looks like Ireland.
Although much of that connection came before the famine struck, Newfoundland's modest population did donate to Irish who were suffering, even after St. John's was razed in a huge fire a year before that destroyed about 2,000 buildings.
They gave over £1,000 in the collection. But what was remarkable was that they weren't all Irish. So it was a real community effort to try to alleviate the suffering of people.
Statues will soon come to Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa as part of the Global Irish Famine Way project. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Coming up, preparing for a busy season ahead.
I think it's going to be a nice season. We are seeing a good rainbow and mix of different nations coming in.
Canada's tourism industry kicks into high gear heading into summer. Plus, an incredible science display by a lightning storm and an erupting volcano. Communities across Canada are starting to come to life with activities ahead of the May long weekend, the unofficial start to summer. Tourism is a key driver in many parts of the country, contributing billions of dollars to the economy. In Ottawa, the Tulip Festival is the biggest draw right now, and it's just the start of the season. CTV's Sam Haupt on how things are shaping up.
Move over, Wiley Karpinski and the boys are rolling through town.
They flew over from Edmonton for a rugby tournament on Saturday, but now it's time for a little tourism on two wheels.
Probably just go sightseeing and stuff like that. We like the karaoke bar here. Like, what was the karaoke bar called? Dreams Karaoke is amazing.
Getting around on bike, a popular choice for visitors.
We initially came because we heard about the Tulip Festival, but we also came to do biking. We went on this great 3-hour bike tour and got sort of the feel of the city.
Robbie Sanders and company are visiting from New York. They were looking for an easy city to navigate.
It's been great. The city's wonderful.
For bike rental shops, it's a positive outlook for the warm months to come.
I think it's going to be a nice season. We are seeing a good rainbow and mix of different nations coming in.
Others are keen to take in the sights on the water. Guru Raj Nagendra and his family are signing up for a cruise along the Ottawa River.
Ottawa is very beautiful. I've been to a lot of places like, Dow's Lake and other places. It feels very amazing for me to be in Ottawa.
The rise in tourists is a major economic boost, even reaching the humblest of businesses.
There's always tourists in the market, so I feel really lucky to be here.
A busy day for vendor Latasha Desjardins. She says tourism in the capital region is finally making a comeback.
I feel like Ottawa tourism is trying to really revamp itself, and they're doing a good job at finding different events. So I think, we're getting there. Ottawa is not boring.
Sam Haupt, CTV News.
Still ahead, meet the New Brunswick joggler, looking for a world record in juggling while running a marathon. New video has emerged of an incredible sight in Guatemala as two of nature's spectacular displays play out at the exact same time.
Whoa.
A lightning bolt striking an erupting volcano near Antigua, illuminating the sky as thick plumes of smoke spilled from the crater. The spectacle occurred late last month, but video capturing the moment has only just surfaced. And there was an amazing spectacle in London, too, as two Austrian skydivers pulled off a daring world-first stunt. The pair navigating through London's iconic Tower Bridge while flying in wingsuits at speeds of almost 250 kilometers an hour. The duo then using their parachutes to land on the Thames. A New Brunswick man has made an incredible attempt at a world record, joggling. Yes, that's a thing. It's an unusual sport to begin with, and this is just a sampling of the spectacular effort to put it on the map. Here's CTV's Laura Brown.
You think you can multitask? Try juggling while running 42 kilometers. It's a dream Jean-Marc Douaran has been chasing for many months, hoping to set a new world record and be the fastest man to complete a marathon while juggling. The current record holder is Port Hope, Ontario's Michael Caprol, set 17 years ago. His time, 2 hours, 50 minutes, and 12 seconds.
Disappointed?
Douaran's time, 2 hours, 52 minutes, 39 seconds.
I was just so sure that I would get it, and to come so close, that's the first emotion.
The juggler coming across Jean-Marc Douaran from Moncton, New Brunswick.
He feels maybe he was overconfident, started a little too fast, and is already willing to say he may try again.
And just be a bit more humble about it. I think that's that was kind of probably the difference.
In order to make the attempt, he ran with a camera on his chest. If he dropped a ball, he had to return to the spot where it dropped and start again. He says he dropped a ball likely 10 to 15 times.
Yes, he missed it, but, he won this event in 2018, the full men's marathon. So, maybe he'll come back with 4 balls. I don't know.
Douaran still finished 19th overall and 9th in his division. That shouldn't feel like you dropped the ball at all.
Yeah, it's the classic story of I went a bit out too hard and paid for it in the last 10K. Like, so many people have that story for the marathon, and I thought it wouldn't be me today, but it was.
I can't do both of those things individually, let alone doing it together. That is an accomplishment.
Juggling, heartbreak, and a will to try again. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
After the break, an international reunion. How a Canadian woman found her long-lost sister just ahead of Mother's Day. Finally for us tonight, a birthday gift for a Montreal woman led to a connection with her sister 40 years after their mother made the difficult decision to give her up for adoption. Here's CTV's Daniel J. Rowe.
Diana Angarita always knew she had a sister. Her mother talked about her often.
But I always knew that she was there, that she exists. She didn't know about me.
Diana's mother, Carmen Angarita, grew up an orphan in Bogota, Colombia. She gave birth in 1981 to her sister, Xiomara. She had nowhere to live and her daughter had health issues. Carmen had a tough choice to make. She said, I didn't have an option to raise her. So she gave her up for adoption, but she always thought about her. I really missed her, Carmen says, and I was very sad when I had to give her up. But this year, the three women's lives changed. Diana's husband gave her a MyHeritage test and app for her birthday. The couple was curious about her ethnicity.
Like a dream come true, like something that you are not imagining because you think that is so hard to get it.
In the app, you can see your ethnicity as well as any DNA matches. It is through these matches that Diana found her sister living in the Netherlands, who had kept her birth name, Xiomara. Diana immediately reached out on social media.
I'm a little bit impulsive, so when I found her, in the app it says half sister, so I said, oh my goodness, I am finding my sister, it's real.
The two soon connected and set up a Zoom call with their mother.
Yes, I'm your daughter, and I hope to see you very soon, and I'm very, very glad that I know now that you are alive and you always think about me.
Yo me puse muy contenta.
I was very happy, she says. I almost cried from happiness. It was very beautiful to know that I also have a grandson. I was waiting for her for a long time.
I think that it was like the best day of my life. It was actually the best gift ever. Thanks to my husband.
Diana, Xiomara, and Carmen are all hoping to meet in person for the first time in December and spend the holidays as a family. Daniel J. Rowe, CTV News.
That's our newscast for this Sunday. I'm Marcia McMillan. From all of us at CTV National News, thanks for watching. Happy Mother's Day. Good night.